Everybody, John Evenhuis here from Trevare up in Whitefish, Montana. We are going to be doing a special class today for our Culinary 2 students down in Bozeman at Bozeman High School. We're going to be making beef broth or beef bone broth or beef marrow bone broth. It's a pretty long process, but I think you're going to love it. It's the greatest way to make good soups, sauces, even added to rice and things like that. So the basics of how to make broth today. The equipment that you're going to use to do your beef broth is a ladle. If you don't have a ladle, use a Pyrex cup thing. Big long spoon. You can use also a wooden spoon. Some tongs if you have tongs. A sheet pan, which you cook cookies on. We're going to roast the bones on this. A pot that you're going to put all the broth into after you've cooked the broth. You're going to strain it into this pot. And then one of these, if you have one of these, this is great. If you don't, just use a strainer. You're going to take your beef marrow bones, which you can get from your butcher. You can get them at Safeway, Super One, any of your fine establishments. And usually you're frozen. You want to thaw them out in the fridge overnight. And then put them in a big pot, and we're going to blanch these guys. And I'll let you know what blanching. Fill your pot with cold water to cover the bones. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring this to a boil for about 20 minutes. You're going to boil it. And what that does, it gets the impurities out of there, and it creates a really nice, clear broth, which is what we're going to be going for here. So we've covered the bones with cold water in our pot. We're going to put them on the stove, and we're going to bring this to a boil and come back in 20 minutes. While you're doing your blanching of your bones, this is when you want to start chopping up your veggies. So what we're going to do is make a mirepoix. A mirepoix is 2 parts onions to 1 part carrots and celery, and this is about that ratio. I like to, you peel your carrots, make sure you really wash your celery. As you can see, I got to wash it even a little better. And then I always like to put in the leaves from the celery in the middle of the celery stalk usually. And the reason why I do that, they add a really good flavor to it. So all this would build out your mirepoix. So you want to cut everything about the same size. So I cut up the celery into that's about 1 inch. And I'm going to do the same thing to the onions and to the carrots. I don't like to use the top of the carrots, so I'll throw those out. And that's about the size of the carrots. As you can see, I took the tops off, and I'm going to cut the rest of those and the onions. Okay, so to cut an onion, we want to take the ends off, like so. Throw those aside. And you want to, you're going to peel these guys. You're going to throw away the peels. You're not going to use them in the stock, okay? Okay, so to cut an onion, you slice it in half, put 1 slice there, and then what you're going to do is you're going to cut, you're going to use your knuckles, and then basically, see what I did? I made it into like 3 different slices, turned it sideways, like so, hold it with your knuckles up against the blade, mirepoix. You have your carrots, you have your celery, you have your onions, and set that aside. You probably want to actually cover it too because it's going to smell like onions. So you want to cover it and put it in the fridge until you are ready to make the broth. There's going to be some gross stuff that all you can call it is just scum that's going to float to the top. You're going to want to take that off with a big spoon and put it into a bowl and throw it away. Blanching boil should look like this after you remove the top scum stuff that was on there. Okay, we're going to do this for probably about another 10 minutes. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bones that after we blanch them, we're going to rinse them off and stuff, and then we're going to roast them. And you roast them in about a 375 oven. That's what I always do. And you're going to do it until they're really brown. I'm also going to teach you a little trick that's an old chef taught me that will help you even impart even better flavor to your bones. So 375. The bones are out of the blanching process. It's been about 20 minutes. And what you want to do is you want to rinse them off with cold water. I would do that really well. for a couple minutes or so. No, that's probably 30 seconds. And then we're going to put them in the roasting pan. Trick that an old chef friend of mine taught me years ago was to take tomato paste, and the tomato paste comes in tubes like this, and or you can get the canned tomato paste, and you just slather it on with your hands. It's hard to do while I'm filming because it's pretty messy. So I just put it on all the bones, as you can see. It kind of looks disgusting, but we're gonna throw those in the oven at 375. Don't put foil down or anything like that because you want the brown bits to get onto the sheet pan. But I put it on a sheet pan in the oven at 375 for about 20 minutes. Okay, see you in 20 minutes. Other tricks I like to do with cooking stock is you don't have to always follow the rules, and you want to think about layering flavors in there. One of the things I'm going to do is add some mushrooms. I had some extra mushrooms in the fridge, so I quarter them, and here they are. And I'm going to add them in when I add in all the vegetables with the beef bones. I find that the mushrooms add like a deeper flavor sometimes to it, a little earthier flavor, which I really like in my stock. And it doesn't make it taste mushroomy at all. It just adds a nice little deep earthy flavor to it. It's in at 375, and you can see it starting to brown nicely. I think another 10-15 minutes and we'll have exactly what we need. Okay, so we've browned the bones, and now we're gonna put them into the stock pot. So we'll put them in the bowl or into the pot. Everybody in the pool is to put all of the veggies in, and just cover it like so. And then we're gonna cover it with cold water. The reason for the cold water is that you want to slowly cook the bones. You don't want to bring it to a boil too fast and all that. You want to slow. So we have our stock pot, and you want to give it like a good swirl like this. You can do this with a big spoon too. You don't have to do it with tongs if you don't have them. And then we're going to turn this on to about medium high. About medium high. And we're going to bring it to a simmer, which is almost like a boil. And a simmer is just below a boil. So if it starts boiling, you bring the temperature down a little bit, and you'll see it kind of still move on top, but it won't be boiling. That's what a simmer is. Okay, so it's now boiling, and I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. And my trusty oven or stove has a sim setting on it, so for simmer. So that is going to cook at a simmer for about 6 hours, or until I go to bed, or close to bed. And it's about 5 o'clock now, so 11, 12, midnight. The longer you cook it, the better it's gonna be. So I'll see you guys around midnight. Thanks. So during the last hour of cooking, you're gonna wanna put your bouquet garni in it. And what that comprises of is some thyme, some parsley, and some bay leaves. And then what I'm going to do is I'll wrap them up with a string. And this is butcher's twine. You can use kite string and things like that. Something that's not nylon, but cotton. So I've wrapped it up in a nice little package, and I'm going to put it into the stock. Into the pool you go. 11 o'clock now. Look how much it's boiled down. So we've lost a lot of liquid, but that's okay. Everything seems to be doing really, really well. I'm going to now turn off the stove and drain this. This is what you do with this thing, which is really awesome. You just turn it on its side, you let it drain, and that's going to drain for probably about 5-10 minutes. And then we'll go from there. So I've taken the solids out, and this is what the broth looks like right now. So it's not, what we want to do is we want to cool it off, and then we're going to take the fat off the top. So the best thing to do is take this and put it in your refrigerator, or if you live in Montana, you could probably put it in your garage with the cover over it and let it cool down to like it's in a fridge or whatever. And we're going to take the fat off the top tomorrow morning. So we'll see you in the morning. We've drained all the stuff out of it. Now I'm gonna take some of this fat that's on the top off of it. Use a slotted spoon to do that. You don't have to get it all, but it helps to make it a nice clear broth. But we're going to do the same thing with straining it into a bigger pot or into a pot that's pretty good size with a fine mesh strainer. And pour that in just like so. Okay, so this is how the broth should look when it's finished. Really nice and clear, not cloudy. It's gonna taste delicious. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna transfer this to little plastic containers. I measure out about 4 cups per container, and then we will put it in the freezer or use it. So I use these plastic containers. You can get them at Safeway or any of your fine establishments. And I use a cup thing, and I put a good measurement of, so I put probably about 3 cups of liquid in. It's not 4. And you keep on doing that until you have a bunch of these filled, and you have stock forever after this. You can put these in the freezer. It freezes so well, and they stack. And then you take them out, you put them in the microwave for about 4 minutes, and they usually will turn to liquid, and then you can add them to your soups or whatever you're putting stock with. How much we made of this stuff. It's a lot of broth. Giving some of this to my friends during the quarantine. Zuckermans are gonna have some of this. And I'm gonna freeze the rest.